Good afternoon, Professor Munda.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening, or this afternoon for you, rather. So now, to get straight into this, the instructions to U.S. attorneys to state U.S. attorneys state that investigations may be conducted if there are clear and credible allegations of irregularities that, if true, could potentially impact the outcome of a federal election in an individual state. So what exactly is the DOJ looking for here?
So before I answer your question, part of the challenge around what the Attorney General has done is that he's moved away from 40-year-old precedents, and that basically means that the tradition is that the DOJ will not commence investigations until the election results are certified. So even departing from that is unusual, but the second element of that is the investigations into this evidence, in addition to being challenging because the results have not been certified, really put the DOJ in a very delicate position because the Attorney General is part of the President's cabinet. So there would appear to be some form of coordination between the executive and this cabinet official to actually find this evidence. I guess there'd be that element of doubt about the credibility of the investigations, and two, the reason that the DOJ has moved away from this long-standing precedent of waiting for certification of results. In addition to that, there have been previous cases when the Attorney General has made some very questionable calls at the prompting of Donald Trump. So this is really raising a lot of controversy here.
I see. Now, so far, there have not been any credible instances found of fraud. So what has been the Democratic and Republican reaction to these instructions?
So as you'd imagine, the Republicans, by and large, are in support of the investigation. They are calling for investigation into alleged fraud. However, there do seem to be some divisions on the Republican side. Former candidate Mitt Romney has said there should be investigations, but the president's attorneys need to present credible evidence to show that there is not only fraud, but there is significant fraud to have swung the election into Joe Biden's favor and to be to the disadvantage of Donald Trump. And also you have on the same side of the Republicans, other Republicans like Senator Lindsey Graham, who have traditionally been strong supporters of the president, who have stuck with the president and said that these investigations have to go on. On the Democratic side, they have essentially dismissed these investigations, and they feel Trump needs to concede because either way, every election anywhere in the world will have some form of irregularities because human beings are human beings. But is there a systematic and structured and calculated scheme to undermine the election and to rig the election in favor of Joe Biden? And I think the threshold of providing that evidence will be very difficult for the Trump attorneys to prove. So really, essentially, that's really the two sides. The Republicans are saying go ahead with the investigations, although they're split in between those who say provide the evidence, those who say keep going on. And the Democrats who are saying that this is essentially a fishing expedition. The president is just too proud to concede that he's lost this election.
Now, as you have mentioned, President Trump has not conceded just yet. So now what impact is this having on U.S. democracy, and what example does this present to emerging democracies around the world?
I think for one, it shows all countries around the world, every country needs to tailor democratic norms to fit individual contexts. The Electoral College works very well for the United States, for our system here of government. It might not work well for Zambia or for Kenya or South Africa or Indonesia. The second thing is, it's really shown that democratic norms are universal, and the norms that Trump is violating are going to have a negative impact in terms of long-term U.S. democracy. The fact that the tradition in the United States is that immediately after an election, that the loser will call the winner within 24 hours and concede. And this has been the norm with Mitt Romney when he lost to Obama, and this was the case of Hillary Clinton when she lost to Donald Trump. That is the norm. So Trump is going into very uncharted waters. However, he is using this element of doubt in the election, sowing doubt in the election, to possibly make a run for the 2024 election. Because if you really look at the evidence on the ground, it's very difficult to see where he's going to make a case. But Trump is really trying to reinforce this idea that the election was rigged, election norms were violated, and that should he decide to make another run in 2024, that this will be the basis of his re-election, to say that the election was stolen by the Democrats and I was actually the rightful winner in 2020. So it's unsettling for US democratic norms, but I think globally every country really needs to decide what are their norms and what fits for their individual system.
Dr. Munda, before I let you go, I am curious as to what your thought processes are on this, because given Mr. Trump's attitudes towards certain instructions given to him other than by himself or maybe his advisory team, do you think that he will actually vacate the White House when he is meant to, if he continues to push this?
I think he will have to vacate the White House. One of the important things we learned from this whole episode is strong institutions are very important, whether it's in Lusaka, Cairo, Nairobi, Abuja, or any other country. And it's the same in the United States. So even though Trump might refuse to play ball, to vacate office, he really essentially will have to follow the established norms. The Biden has already established a consistent team, which is already into the COVID epidemic, and the president or the president-elect has a transition team in play. So I think by and large, Donald Trump will have to accept ultimately the will of the people, because it really doesn't seem that there'll be any kind of significant evidence, none that they've presented so far, to invalidate this election. So by and large, I have faith in the institutions, and I see President-elect Biden being certified by Congress on January 6th, and following that, taking the oath of office. And President Trump will probably try and run for re-election in 2024, should he decide to go that route.
Well, all the best of luck to him in 2024, if that's his decision, I should say. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Dr. Munda.
Thank you so much for having me.